What is going on, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Main Event Review. Once again, thank you very much for tuning into another episode today. We're going to be obviously reviewing Main Event, 3 matches once again. I'm hoping they remain consistent with the 3 matches because that's, helps a lot and gives this podcast a lot more life and a lot of time. And we'll also be reviewing Clash in Italy as well in a PLE that was pretty decent, I would say. I think it was what it needed to be. The Italian crowd was electric. It was amazing. And I think the highlight of the whole crowd was them sort of humming into Brock Lesnar's song. No lyrics, but you could just hear the fans sort of cheering and singing it. And it was actually simply incredible. And it actually caught Brock Lesnar by a big surprise as well. You could tell it's been a while since he's wrestled in Europe. So him being able to just, have that reception just out of his first match, supposedly retired, was really good. But yeah, we'll get to all that. But first, I can't dismiss what happened before Clash in Italy. And that was the mask versus mask match between the original El Grande Americano and El Grande Americano. If you have not watched that match, stop this podcast right now and give it a watch. Because let me tell you, that is gotta be the match of the year. Originally, I thought that this match was good enough to be at WrestleMania and it deserved to be on the card, but I'm so thankful it didn't get on the card because I feel like in a WWE PLE, this wouldn't have had the match time and the sort of, success it did on Triple R. Incredible match. The match went for literally 40 minutes. It started with, the original hitting El Grande Americano with the guitar. You had so many spots where you thought that, the original would win and the other El Grande Americano would win, but there was so many near falls, so many kickouts, so much drama, and the pace of the match was incredible. There was a lot of blood. Both guys were busted wide open, and it ended up with El Grande Americano, the Kaiser version, getting the victory and winning the mask versus mask match. And we did see Chad Gable be revealed and the original unmask himself. And he had a lot of blood on him, but it was just an incredible showing. And you could see that Gable was very emotional at the end. I think he really enjoyed his El Grande gimmick, and the fans were really giving him a massive cheer and chanting with him once it was concluded, because I think they did know the job that the original did. And now I am hoping that, WWE, TKO have seen this and they give Gable the run he deserves. I think he needs to come back on the main show and have an elite run in WWE. I think he's done enough to show that he can do it. He's obviously incredible in the ring, and he's just come off a really good gimmick here as well. And he was the right person to be unmasked. Reason being is because obviously I think, when Chad Gable first did it, it was a parody. But Ludwig Kaiser's version of El Grande Americo is something that actually genuinely connected with the fans. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be something that was just a fill-in. But it ended up being, him being the top. He's the top babyface of AAA at the moment. He is the Cody Rhodes of AAA at the moment. And no one would have expected that. The fact that he was able to connect with the fans and speak Spanish, I think, which helped big time, made him beloved across all the fans in Mexico. So, getting rid of El Grande Americano, I think, or the Kaiser's version, wouldn't have been the smart idea. And this obviously allows Chad Gable to be an obvious WWE star now, and potentially could be coming back to AAA. He'll be getting a lot of big reactions because I think he's done a lot for the company as well. And, AAA is on a really good run at the moment. Undertaker's obviously in charge of creative there. And you've got now Rey Mysterio, who is the general manager. But that match was, honestly, it was 5-star match. And I think everyone needs to go back and watch it. Even if you're not a AAA fan, definitely lock into it. Because in terms of the storyline, in terms of the hype, in terms of everything that this delivered, it's probably going to be rivalry and storyline of the year. Because I don't think the last time I've seen like a personal rivalry or a big rivalry that was this good was probably CM Punk and Drew McIntyre in 2024. We haven't come near to this until these two got at it with each other. And, it is still part of WWE, so it deserves a mention. And, they're both WWE stars as well. Chad Gable now is going to be unmasked, and I'm pretty sure El Grande Americano is still going to do some decent things in WWE. I hope. I don't hope they just keep him pinned in AAA. I think he can still do a lot in WWE as well. And I think the next step for him is going to Triple Mania and taking on Dom Mysterio for the Mega Champion, which I think he is going to win. And that payoff is going to be at Triple Mania, which will be massive as well. And that's going to be in September, so it's a few months away. But yeah, get excited for that. But also just, tune into that match. We'll move on now to main event, which is obviously what we're all here for today. We start off with Axiom taking on Kit Wilson. Axiom getting the victory in this one. And I think the reason why they gave Axiom the victory here is because he is obviously going to be fighting in his hometown. Well, he defeated The Miz in his hometown, or his home country. And I think, that was to give him momentum there, take on the weaker Kit Wilson and then take on the bigger Miz, which he did successfully. And, Axiom in Spain had a really large pop and crowd reaction, which was, deserved and necessary, given that he is the first Spanish superstar in WWE. Last year, he went one-on-one with Gunther in a really, really, really good match. And, he came up short, but today he came up strong in both matches, and that's given him a lot of momentum there. How that sort of works with Nathan Fraser, I'm not sure. Hopefully they can push for some tag team titles there, because, I think the division needs a bit of a shake-up. But, it was really good for Axiom to get the victory and to see him as a single star. I'm a big fan of his Spanish fly going into a golden ratio. That's how he beat Kit Wilson. And, we'll continue to see him develop and grow as we've been doing the last few weeks, especially on main event. And then for Kit Wilson, he's done a really good job in his gimmick. I'm actually a really big fan of Kit Wilson at the moment. Definitely honing into this character of being all talk and a jobber. Hopefully he can get some sort of sneaky victories as well. Maybe make a deep run in potentially a mid-card title. I don't know. But at the moment, I think Kit Wilson's doing what he needs to do to sort of get on TV and get relevance. And partnering up with The Miz, I think there's no one else that can better help him than The Miz, to be honest, who's a big fan and someone that has been hated and has also been very much, I guess, a lot of, jobbing as well. So very good for that. But yeah, this is a very interesting one. There to see at and see where Kit Wilson goes in the future as well, if they continue to go on this run or he gets a bit of a push later. And then we get Ivy Nile taking on Carmen Petrovic. So Carmen Petrovic is from NXT. She's been here a few times. I think she's the next one up to get sort of promoted from NXT into WWE, SmackDown and Raw. As of probably, I think next year, I think that's when they'll probably go for that. But it is Ivy Nile that gets the victory here. And you know what? Ivy Nile has been on a pretty strong run at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised that if she goes for a Women's Intercontinental Championship. We'll get to that later. But just the fact that she's been winning a lot of matches, I think gives her a chance to get on there. And, I think it'd be a very good starting feud with Sol Ruka. Yes, Sol Ruka won. Again, I'll save that for that. But this might lead to that. And that's why getting the win here was important for her to build that momentum. Again, American Made is their own group, but it doesn't seem like she's been fully involved with them as of yet. And, for Carmen Petrovic, I think continuing to get the exposure to, the main crowds and live shows is what she needs at the moment. And she's doing a pretty decent job at it. And then we get another NXT tag team. We got Charlie Dempsey and Uri Connors. Again, I don't really know much about them. They're part of Birthrights. I think there's something in that sort of group. Again, if you want to catch up on NXT, we have the NXT review. But again, I don't really have the time to sort of tune into it. But they take on the Alpha Academy, who are on a hot win streak at the moment. They've won 4 in a row, and they do make it 5 in a row in this match. This match went for a pretty decently long time. It ended with, Otis getting on a run, hitting the Caterpillar, and then that allowed for, Akira Tozawa to hit the senton to get the victory. And, that was their 5th win in a row. And, Alpha Academy are getting somewhat of a win streak going on. But it looks as though that Maxine Dupree is obviously, we've been seeing the last few weeks, partner up and sort of, have some teasers with Austin Theory, So, I think they're going to be roped into that sort of feud, whatever that is, when Maxine Dupree eventually either turns heel or sides with Austin Theory. We'll find more out. We'll find out more about it. Sorry, it's got stuck in my words, but we'll find out more about it as the episodes of Raw go on. But it looks as though that's where they're going, and that might mean that we might see a small feud between the Vision and Alpha Academy. We'll have to wait and see. But it's a good way for them to sort of get into the tag team division and try to go for titles again. Or else they continue to just be, a main event staple as they always are. And it's great seeing them there. Again, they're very much on this card most of the time because of the fact that they're very entertaining and they give sort of, a bit of positive energy to the crowd and gets them hyped up for, the Raw SmackDown that is upcoming. So I'm not against it. But again, they'll continue to sort of, be these type of characters going forward. But, that pretty much concludes the main event review. We'll go straight into Clash in Italy. In terms of predictions, I got 4 out of 5, I would say. But I am going to be going to go to my defense and say that if there was one title change that was going to happen, it was going to be the Intercontinental Women's Championship, which it did happen. So I guess we'll start with that. We do have Sol Ruka as the new champion. She hits the Snow Snatcher on Becky Lynch. And the reason why I thought there would be a chance is obviously because Becky Lynch disqualified Sol Ruka last week. And we still get that feud with Jessica Carr, who was the referee in this match as well. So it looks as though that I feel like Becky Lynch is going to come on Raw, complain, make excuses, and go at Jessica Carr. I think her time with the Women's Intercontinental title has come to an end. And I'm sort of happy it's put on some new blood like Sol Ruka as well, because I think new and upcoming stars, mid-card stars like Sol Ruka deserve to sort of battle for that title. And I think Becky Lynch is just too big for it. So her getting off it was the right move. It allows for people like Ivan Noel to potentially step up and, go for that title as well. And who knows who Sol Ruka can go into the ring with. But it's definitely a big victory for her. And I think she'll do a really good job with the title. I think she's really good in ring. And, she demonstrated that really well. And Becky Lynch, I think, will be more than fine. I think this feud with Jessica Carr is actually that's something that's more captivating and has been sort of the center of attention for a few months now. Probably like over 6 months, to be honest. So let's see where that goes. And then we had the first match of the night, which was Cody Rhodes taking on Gunther. Cody Rhodes got the victory here. The match was good, but it wasn't amazing, if I'm honest. I think I expected a lot better between these two, but at the same time, I think it was a really solid match overall. But the way that Cody Rhodes won was he hit the crossroads on Gunther, and Gunther's feet and body was essentially under the turnbuckle, which means that the ref can't actually pin or start pinning because or start counting for the pin because obviously his foot's under the rope. So the fact that, Gunther gets robbed here sort of protects him and also gives, Cody some heel-like vibes at the moment. And he's continuing to do this. Like, he took advantage of Sami Zayn last week. He took advantage of the ref, making a mistake. And, he's not apologetic about it. So whether it's him just trying to be, do a survival play or him just acting like a heel, we'll find out soon. But, he's definitely showing signs of being a heel at the moment. And this, was done to really protect Gunther, let's be honest. And Gunther's not going to be happy about it. Does he ask for a rematch? I don't know. But, with what happened with Brock Lesnar happening, that's going to lead to that eventually. We all like to think. So let's see what they do in the meantime with Gunther while we prepare for that. And then we get the second match of the night, and that was between Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill. Now, this match was actually really, really good. And I got to say, out of the bat, I think Jade Cargill has now proven that she can go toe-to-toe with anyone in the ring. Like, she lasted like 17 minutes here. She did an incredible job. And the only thing that I can critique her with is a lot of people are blaming B-Fab for the botch. I'm going to lean more towards Jade Cargill being at fault, only because although B-Fab should have probably grabbed her leg a bit better, I feel like Jade Cargill wasn't in the best position to get her foot grabbed, if that makes sense. I feel like she was a bit too far away from B-Fab, so the ring awareness was lacking there. But yeah, it didn't look good. But at the same time, that happens, and we all know what B-Fab was trying to do and trying to do. So look, it looks worse on B-Fab because she's the one that's supposed to put her leg up, but I still think Jade Cargill was at fault there. But in terms of her performance in the ring, she was really good. It also led to sort of Charlotte Flair coming out, hitting a sort of springboard onto both of them, crossbody, sorry, onto Michin and B-Fab. And then obviously that allowed Jade Cargill to hit the Jaded after that distraction. But Charlotte Flair put the ropes up for Rhea Ripley, her foot on the rope, and that led to Rhea Ripley getting the victory there. So Charlotte making the save for Rhea Ripley. It looks as though we're leaning more towards potentially a Charlotte and Rhea Ripley match at SummerSlam. The reason being is because Charlotte can use this as fuel to help Rhea Ripley. And I think once, Jade Cargill gets out of the way, we're definitely going to see Charlotte Flair go for the Women's Championship. I think it's time to see her back in the main card as well. Now, what she does with Jade Cargill, it looks as though, and we'll talk about this later, but the first round is Jade Cargill taking on Charlotte Flair in the King of the Ring tournament. So my guess is that Charlotte Flair is the heavy favorite to win that, and that's why I think that she'll get the opportunity to verse Rhea Ripley. So look out for that. Because, I think that we're going to see a feud there. I'd love to see a triple threat between the three. I think it's probably worth noting because I think Jade Cargill still is around, but the fact that she lost 2, that might mean she has to move on. But yeah, Rhea Ripley retains the title and she'll have to thank Charlotte Flair for that as well. And then we get into the rematch between Brock Lesnar and Obafemi. And I really love this match. I'm not going to lie. I know it was just power moves and it was short, but I was a big fan of it. Like the fact that Brock Lesnar came out and hit 4 F5s on Obafemi. Obafemi kicking out of that, looking really, really strong in the process. And then Brock Lesnar hitting a F5 on the table and, you thought he was going to be counted out. Obafemi was going to be counted out. He got straight up after 5, came in, put some momentum. Was about to hit the fall from grace. Brock Lesnar countered, hit an F5, and got the victory. I think it was perfectly executed. Now, a lot of people are saying that this doesn't help Obafemi, and I couldn't disagree more. I think Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar. We have to remember that he is the beast. He is known for dominating people. He broke Undertaker's streak. He's destroyed John Cena multiple times. He's been a world heavyweight champion multiple times. He's also a real-life combat fighter. He's one of the most dangerous people on the planet. When I look at any superstar in the ring, the one that I'm most scared and intimidated of is actually Brock Lesnar. He is truly a beast. So the fact that, people were trying to say that this is the wrong move and it makes Obafemi look bad, I couldn't disagree more. It actually just reminded people who Brock Lesnar truly is. And Obafemi is going to be more than fine. Because the fact is that he kicked out of 5 F5s. He looked strong. He looked dominant. And we're definitely going to get a rubber match between these two. So we're going to get a third match. And that's where I think Obafemi will get put over and win. So we have to remember that. We have to remember that Obafemi needs to be able to take a loss. And the fans need to get behind him. If they really care for him and they really like him, they'll stay behind him. And you know what? For me, I don't think it changes my opinion on Obafemi. I think it just reminds me that Brock Lesnar is a beast. And I'd rather that than him just lose matches left, right, and center. Again, we know that he's going to take on Gunther. That's going to be, I think, the final match. So why not give him some momentum, get him a big win here where he, faked everyone retiring and comes out and just shows who he is. And, it's about time that Obafemi sort of got humbled as well, because if Brock Lesnar didn't beat him, it would show that Obafemi is, undefeated and he should just be a champion right now. But that's not true. So, you have to sort of be smart with this. And I think they did the right job here. But, it was a really good match. And Obafemi did a really good job, and Brock Lesnar just showed who he was. And again, the fans were all behind him. I really enjoyed the fan interactions with Brock Lesnar, the chanting, and them overall. I think for me, I really like the European crowds, and the reason why they're so loud is because they don't really get that many PLEs that often. So to be honest, they have to sort of embrace it. And they're also big football fans, and they always bring out large chants and crowds. So I love that type of stuff. And then we end on the tribal combat match between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. Again, wasn't a big fan of this match overall, the way it ended, but it was the right decision for Roman Reigns to spear Jacob Fatu through the table and hit another spear to get the victory. Obviously, there were a lot of kickouts of finishes there, but Roman Reigns gets on top, which is what we all expected. What was interesting is seeing, Solo and Tala and Tamatonga in the sort of crowd looking on, and we're obviously probably going to see a feud with them now. A lot of people are over it, but again, I don't really hate the fact that there is bloodline feud. So I'm interested to see where that goes as well. In terms of, I think, what happens with Fatu, he's obviously going to be Roman Reigns' lapdog, and we'll see how he goes in that role. He obviously walked out with the Usos, and it's just funny to see how much Jey Uso was telling Fatu to come, and now full being sort of all aboard the Tribal Chief is quite interesting as well. But Roman Reigns is always going to win this. This is always to encourage, the bloodline to be stronger and for Jacob Fatu to join the bloodline. And let's see what happens going forward. But obviously it wasn't good enough to beat Roman Reigns, unfortunately. So that means he has to fall in line. And yeah, that pretty much finishes up Clash in Italy. We move on to Night of Champions, where I think the tournament matches are just starting. I think a few will happen on Raw as well. Like I said, I feel like Charlotte Flair is probably the favorite for the women's. And I do think potentially LA Knight could be the favorite for the men's comp as well. Royce Keys looks like a big favorite as well, but I think that he's going to be sort of in the way and feuding with, Solo and the MFTs, which might cost him. I'm interested to see how he gets involved with all this. Roman Reigns did call him out, and he did call LA Knight out as well. So I think LA Knight is the one that makes the most sense. And I feel like they deserve to give LA Knight a push to go for the title. But let's see where they go with that. I think it will be very interesting, and I think the King of the Ring tournament will show that. Or they might go in a completely different direction, and Obafemi might just, win the whole thing, dominate, and we get that sort of massive matchup between Obafemi and Roman Reigns. Who knows? But he's in the King of the Ring tournament. LA Knight's in the King of the Ring tournament. Trick Williams, Royce Keys. There's a lot. And on the women's side, you've got, for some reason, Liv Morgan, which I don't know why she's in it when she's already champion. So that sort of, to me, rules out any Raw superstar winning it. It's definitely going to be someone on SmackDown that's going to take on Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. But we will cross that bridge when we get there. I don't know where Money in the Bank's going to be. That's the question that I want to know, because normally Money in the Bank is before SummerSlam, but they haven't really advertised it, which is, very interesting. I think that's something that we obviously want to see. It looks like it's going to be in September. So that's interesting. That's a weird time to have Money in the Bank. Usually they do it before SummerSlam. Now they're doing it after. So, okay, I guess we'll take that. But yeah, Night of Champions is coming up. And then you've got Money in the Bank after SummerSlam and main event, Saturday night's main event, which will be happening and taking place in New York in the Madison Square Garden. So I think that's going to be a really big Saturday night's main event. So be sure to see a lot of really big matches in that one too. But again, it's been another episode of the Main Event Review. Once again, thanks very much for tuning into this week's episode. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next week. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.